Okay, so recently I've been making a number of videos about building agents and using the Llama 3 model for building agents. And we've actually been using Grok in the cloud to serve the 70 billion Llama 3 model. In this video, what I want to do is move away from using the cloud at all. And we're going to be using Ollama and the smaller Llama 3 8 billion model locally. In fact, we're going to be using a quantized version of that on Ollama to look at the idea of, can we do function calling with a local model? So I've made videos about function calling in the past, and generally I've tended to use one of the big models that has been a proprietary model served out of the cloud, whether that's OpenAI, whether that's Gemini, whether that's Anthropic, etc. But what I thought I would do in this video is actually look at running some of these things locally. And I'm going to try and do a few of these videos showing building agents locally. One of the cool things you can do is get an agent to basically run all night and use the internet and do a whole bunch of different things while the LLM and all of the other parts are running locally. So it's not costing you anything by paying for tokens. You don't have to worry about exceeding token limits, all this kind of stuff. It's all running locally here. So what I thought we'd do is start off by looking at function calling for the local Llama 3. I also wanted to do this looking at the Phi-3 model. So I didn't make a video when Phi-3 came out. I do think it's a very impressive little model. It can be used for a variety of different tasks. You can fine tune it for a bunch of different things. And certainly while it's gotten a lot bigger than the previous Phi models, it's still over half the size of a Llama 8. So I want to look at this and see, okay, can we do any function calling, any sort of structured outputs, JSON and stuff with both these models? And let's look at how you could actually do this in here. So for measuring function calling, there's a really nice paper called Gorilla, which basically looked at the whole idea of function calling and stuff. And one of the things that's come out of that is this function calling leaderboard. So if you ever want to know, okay, what models out there can do function calling and can do it, you can actually come in here and you can look and see what they've actually got in here. You'll see that the obvious models are there, like your GPT-4, your Claude 3 Opus, etc. But if we scroll down, we can see in 7th place, Llama 3 70 billion is in here. And if we scroll down quite a lot further down, we can see that actually the Llama 3 8 billion model is also on this leaderboard. Now, while it's nowhere near as good as the bigger version and the bigger proprietary models, it's still getting pretty decent results in here. So we're going to use this model, and I'm going to try out the Phi-3 model going through things here as well. All right, let's jump into the code. All right, so in the first example, we're just going to look at setting up Llama 3 with Ollama. So you really want to use this chat Ollama for the model there. You can just pass in model name Llama 3. You can see I'm bringing in a string output parser here. I'm bringing in a chat prompt template. Some other things that you want to pay attention to is this whole property of keep alive. So this is probably more key if you're doing notebooks. If you're doing notebooks, it can be a real pain to run something from cell to cell, and it has to load the model up each time. So doing the keep alive is the way to basically keep the model going in memory as you go through. All right, next we set up a very simple prompt template. So you can see here, I'm just saying, write me a 500-word article on topic from the perspective of, and then pass in a profession in here. We're going to use LangChain expression language. So we're just passing in the prompt, the LLM. Now, obviously, where we've got this, these are going to be swapped out for our topic and our profession. We've got the prompt going into the LLM, going into the string output parser, and then we can just invoke this to get this going. And you'll see that when I run it, it's going to take a little bit of time to actually get going in this way. Here, we're basically doing the invoke. We're going to get the whole article back in one shot towards the end here. So let me just scroll this up so we can see it as it comes through. Now you'll find, depending on your machine, this can take a short amount of time, can take longer. All right, so there's our article that we got back about LLMs, game changers for shipping magnates like me. It's come back. Now you'll see again that it's in Markdown format, but here we're just printing this out. So what if we want to see it as it's actually generating? We can come up here and comment out the invoke and just put the stream in there. Let me just clear this. And you'll see this time when we run it, we're going to get basically a streaming response back, and we can see it as it streams out once it's loaded the model and gotten going here. Okay, so this time when we run it, we'll see very quickly that the model starts generating out straight away. And we can see that it's generating quite a lot of tokens per second here. This will obviously change, but based on what computer you're using, etc., as you go through here. All right, so next up, let's have a look at doing something where we're trying to get a JSON output from Llama3. Okay, so this is a modified example of one of the LangChain examples here. What we're going to do in this case is we're going to basically define a JSON schema. We're going to try and get JSON back, and we're going to use a JSON output parser in here. So let's talk about this. Now, one of the key things that you want to do here is that you want to set the format of your model to be JSON. Now, if you set this to be JSON, I'm not 100% sure what Ollama is doing in the background, but I think they're doing something like the JSON former paper, where they're basically making it so there's a much higher probability of you getting JSON out than just normal things. And they claim that this guarantees that you will get JSON out all the time. I still find that you need to basically tell it that you want JSON in your prompts, etc., and go through it and do this. But this is a great way for being able to extract information out in JSON, get responses back in JSON. And this is one of the key things that you'll often want to use with agents, is you want to make sure that you're getting something very specific back with some kind of schema in here. So you can see that the schema here is basically just telling it that it's going to be a person. We've got a description. We've got some properties in there that it's going to fill out as we go through this. And you'll notice what we're doing is we've got the chat prompt here where we're going to pass that schema in, where they're going to pass in exactly what we want it to pass out for us. And you can see that this idea of a schema, we're just taking the original JSON schema dictionary that we had up here. We're going to convert it to a string to pass in. And then you'll see that we're just going to pass that in, and it's going to go through the prompt, through the LLM, and then through the JSON output parser. Okay, so you'll see that once we basically run this, it's going to go through, it's going to pass out this here, and we're getting back a dictionary. I can see the dictionary is going to have name, John, age 35, hobbies, pizza. I think it may have made a mistake in the hobbies. It should be favorite food in there. So it won't always get it 100%. Obviously, the more detailed things that you ask for, the more chance you're going to have that it's going to get it wrong. We did get back the required name and age in here. And you can see here that I basically printed out the response, but then I also printed out the type of the response so that we can see that we actually got a dictionary back here. What if we change using the JSON output parser to just using a string output parser? You'll see that rather than get the dictionary back now, this time we're going to get just a string back. So your JSON output parser basically takes it and converts it to a dictionary, like treats it as if it's a JSON string and converts it to a dictionary. Now you can see here that we got the same response back, but we got a whole bunch of white space after it. And then right down at the bottom, we can see the class was type string that we've got in there. So generally you want to stick to using the JSON output parser rather than using the string output parser in here. Okay, next up, we're going to look at getting out structured responses now using Ollama functions. So this is like using the tool calling or the function calling. In LangChain, whenever you hear tool calling and function calling, they're interchangeable. Here, you can see that what we're going to do here, and this is the sort of first one, rather than give the schema as a dictionary and then convert it to a string here, now we're actually using Pydantic to define a class for the actual things that we want to extract. So in this case, we want to extract the person's going to have a name, they're going to have a height, they're going to have the color of hair. This example I've modified from the LangChain docs in here, where they're basically giving it some things to think about. So you've got Alex is 5 feet tall, Claudia is should be 1 foot taller than Alex and jumps higher than him. Claudia is a brunette and Alex is a blonde. So what we're going to do is this is the context that we're going to pass into the prompt. So our prompt is going to be, you're a smart assistant, take the following context and question below and return your answer in JSON. So looking at our model, you can see again, we're using Llama 3, we're using JSON. We've got the temperature set to 0 here. We've got our prompt that's going to basically take in the context and the question. You can see I'm wrapping this with the prompt format for Llama 3. Personally, I found this to actually be one of the key things of getting it to work properly, is getting the right prompt format in how you're doing these kind of things. So I'm going to basically have a question, context, and then I'm going to prompt it to get the JSON out here. We're going to use this with structured output idea. So you can see that we're basically taking this LLM and we're binding that pydantic model to the LLM for getting the structured output. Then we're going to have the prompt, and we're going to have the structured LLM, which is just our LLM with the pydantic class schema in there now. And then you can see we can basically pass in something like a question and a context in here. And now we can just run it, and we can see that, okay, it's now using the pydantic model. Obviously, we've got the Llama 3 set to JSON in this case. And hopefully we're going to find out some things back, and it's going to come back. Now, look here what we've got back. We've got Claudia, height, 6.0, hair color, brunette. So you can see that actually what it's done is it's worked out that Claudia was 1 foot taller than Alex. So Claudia is therefore 6 feet tall in here, and that Claudia's hair is brunette in here. So we've gotten these right answers out. So let's try the same thing with the Phi-3 model, right? So the Phi-3 model is a lot smaller than the Llama 3 8B. Okay, so the only changes in here is that we've changed the prompt to use the Phi style of prompting, and I've changed the model to be Phi-3 in here. The rest is exactly the same. So this model's a lot smaller. I wouldn't expect that it's going to be as good as Llama 3. But you'll see that when I run it on something like this, let's see when it's coming back, you can see that it also can work out that, okay, the name is Claudia for who is taller, height is 6.0, the hair color brunette in here that we're getting back. So this shows us that we can use the Phi-3 model for doing a lot of this simple structured output stuff. I'm not going to say that this is going to be great for it. Probably on the whole, the Llama 3 8 billion parameter model is going to be better. Certainly the 70 billion parameter model is going to be a lot better. But you'll be surprised that you can actually get some really nice outputs with this Phi-3 model doing exactly these kind of things. All right, let's move on to the sort of tool use and function calling example. Okay, so in this example, I'm back using the Llama 3 model again. And now what we're doing is we're using this new sort of experimental Ollama functions. So this has just been added to LangChain just recently. And what it lets you do is basically bind tools to the model, just like you do with other function calling ways in here. This is not necessarily going to work with every model on Ollama, but the models that do support function calling, you'll be able to do this. So you've got your Llama 3, you've got your Phi-3 like we're playing with here. You've got some of the mixtural models. There are a bunch of different models that you can do something like this and then basically get back using this Ollama functions. So we're taking one of the classic examples here of the tool that's going to use is basically get the weather. So we're passing in here basically this definition of the tool here. Now, I'm not actually defining the tool here. You can look at other examples I've done for that. But we want to see that if we give it something related to weather, will it actually come back telling us that we should be calling this get current weather function in here. So you'll see that, okay, I'm just passing in a simple question of, what is the weather in Singapore? Okay, I'm running that. What I want to see back here is not just a response now in JSON, but actually a function call response that we're going to get back here. And sure enough, we can see that we've got this back, that we've got this content with additional arguments and its function call. We can see the function call that it wants to do is get current weather. The arguments are going to be Singapore. The unit is going to be Celsius in this case. So now we can basically use those to do our function call and then pass it back through this, just like I've done before with things like when we've done it with OpenAI, etc. Let's try the same thing for Phi-3. Okay, now with the Phi-3 example, you can see that everything is exactly the same. We've just swapped out the model to be the Phi-3 model here. I will say that I think it's going to work for this one. Let me run it. It won't necessarily always work, especially when you've got multiple tools in this case. Now you can see that was actually very quick too, but you can see that we've got this back. We've got no content as in text coming back, but we've got a function call. We've got the name of the function call. We've got the arguments. In this case, it didn't give us the argument for the unit. It just gave us location Singapore. So it does show that it's not as strong perhaps as the Llama 3 8 billion model at doing this, but it still was able to handle it. It still was able to, pass things back for us. So this gives you a few ways that you can do sort of JSON use, structured outputs, and tool use with these local models like your Llama 3, like your Phi-3, like some of the Mixtral models. And then there are a whole bunch of other models that people are fine-tuning just for function calling. So if they've been fine-tuned in a way that sort of makes them compatible, you'll find that they'll often work with this. I actually find that the Llama 3 70 billion can do a variety of different ways of function calling, just because it seems to do so well that it's able to pick up the sort of format you're giving it the function calling in and work out what it should be returning pretty easily in here. But anyway, now you've got two models that you can use locally to start building agents where you can do function calls with tools and basically have a free amount of tokens for running nonstop to do a variety of different tasks, etc. In some of the future videos, we'll start looking at actually building some agents and building some RAG systems on these local models so that we can use them for a variety of different things. Anyway, as always, if you've got any comments or questions, please put them in the comments below. I would love to hear back from people how they're using this, what kind of tools you're looking at using or currently using for your agents, that kind of thing. And as always, if you found the video useful, please click like and subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye for now.